The air crackled, not with electricity, but with something far more sinister. I remember the day as a perfect storm. Sunshine, the smell of fresh-baked bread, the laughter of children, all a grotesque backdrop to the horror that was about to unfold. I never saw it coming, not in my wildest nightmares. But then again, whoever does? Let me rewind a bit. My name is Sarah, and at 46, I thought I'd seen it all. I have two incredible daughters, Maya, who is 17, and Chloe, who just turned 15. But life, as it often does, had other plans for us. About a year ago, my ex-husband Mark died in a car accident. A tragic accident, yes, but the tragedy was layered, a twisted onion of deceit and betrayal. You see, Mark wasn't just my ex-husband. He was a serial cheater, and his last affair resulted in 2 infant sons. He had left them orphaned when he died, along with their mother who had died shortly before him. It was a mess, a spectacular, soul-crushing mess. And like vultures circling a carcass, Mark's parents, my ex-in-laws, swooped in, adding their own brand of toxicity to the already festering wound. They tried to get custody of my daughters. They even had the audacity to suggest they move in with us. Can you imagine? Living under the same roof as the people who enabled my husband's infidelity, who actively tried to destroy my marriage. It was beyond comprehension. My daughters were struggling. They were the ones who discovered Mark's affair, the ones who had to break the news to me. The betrayal cut deep, leaving scars that might never fully heal. They resented the 2 half-brothers, not because they were inherently bad kids, but because they were a constant reminder of their father's treachery. We were all in therapy, trying to navigate this minefield of grief, anger, and resentment. The town we lived in was quaint, almost sickeningly so. It boasted a weekend market, a vibrant hub of local farmers and artisans, fresh produce, homemade jams, the aroma of roasting meats. It was a sensory overload in the best way possible. This particular weekend was Chloe's birthday. Her party was later in the month, but I wanted to do something special for her. So I gave her a budget and turned her loose at the market, telling her to buy whatever her heart desired, mostly chocolate and sweets, knowing my youngest daughter. An hour passed, then another. Worry started to gnaw at me. Chloe was responsible, usually punctual. I was just about to call her when my phone rang. It was her. Her voice was choked with sobs. "Mom, I don't know what to do. These people are cornering me." My blood ran cold. "Where are you? Stay put, I'm coming." I grabbed Maya and we raced towards the market, my heart pounding in my chest like a trapped bird. We found her near the flower stalls, surrounded by a group of women. Older women, their faces etched with disapproval and self-righteousness. Women I recognized from my ex-in-law's church. Their voices, sharp and accusatory, cut through the cheerful market sounds like shards of glass. "Chloe, you should be ashamed of yourself," one of them screeched, her face contorted in a mask of pious anger. "Your grandparents are heartbroken. You refuse to see them, to be a proper granddaughter." Another chimed in, her voice dripping with condescension. "And what about your poor little brothers? Don't you feel any compassion for those orphaned babies? You should be a good big sister, a Christian role model." The words hit me like a physical blow. How dare they? How dare they ambush my daughter, weaponizing her grief and guilt? I stepped between them, shielding Chloe with my body. "Leave her alone," I growled, my voice shaking with fury. "This is none of your business." I turned to Maya. "Take your sister to the car." Scared. "Now." Maya hesitated, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. "But Mom, go, I'll handle this." She obeyed, grabbing Chloe's hand and pulling her away. As they disappeared into the crowd, I turned back to the women, my anger simmering just below the surface. "You have no right to speak to my daughter like that," I said, my voice low and dangerous. "You know nothing about what we've been through." One of the women, a particularly viperous creature named Agnes, stepped forward. "We know that you're poisoning those girls against their own family. You're a disgrace. A Christian wife should obey her husband's parents, honor them, obey." I spat. "My husband is dead, and his parents are manipulative, toxic people who enabled his cheating and abuse. I owe them nothing." The argument escalated, voices rising, attracting unwanted attention. The market manager, a burly man with a handlebar mustache, approached us, his face grim. "Ladies, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. This is disrupting the peace." We were escorted off the premises, the women trailing behind us like a pack of hyenas. I managed to get my girls into the car and sped away, leaving them in a cloud of dust and righteous indignation. That night, after my daughters were asleep, I couldn't shake the feeling of violation. The church women's ambush at the market was a blatant attack, a calculated attempt to shame and manipulate us. I felt a burning need to understand what had triggered it. I reached out to an old acquaintance, David, who was still a member of the church. He was a kind, level-headed man, someone I trusted. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, I hesitantly asked him about the incident at the market. His response was immediate and apologetic. "Sarah, I am so sorry. I heard about what happened. It was completely uncalled for." Then he dropped the bomb. "Your ex-mother-in-law posted a lengthy, incredibly biased story on the church's Facebook group. It was a masterpiece of manipulation." He went on to explain how she had portrayed herself and her husband as victims, abandoned and penniless. She claimed that my daughters refused to speak to them, that we were the reason they had lost custody of their grandsons. It was a sob story worthy of a daytime drama, designed to elicit sympathy and outrage. And it worked. The more extremist members of the church ate it up, showering her with support and condemnation for me and my daughters. But here's the kicker. To explain away the existence of the two orphan boys without revealing Mark's infidelity, she claimed that the other woman was our surrogate, that I had been unable to have more children, and when the surrogate gave birth to boys, I rejected them because I only wanted daughters. The audacity, the sheer unadulterated gall. I was accused of being a monster, a heartless woman who abandoned innocent children simply because of their gender. The rage that surged through me was unlike anything I had ever experienced. But amidst the fury, a cold, calculating calm settled over me. This wasn't just about defending myself. It was about exposing the truth, about dismantling their carefully constructed web of lies. I had been in the middle of a divorce when Mark died. The proceedings were messy, contentious, and filled with enough dirt to bury a small town. And because the divorce wasn't finalized when he died, I had access to all the evidence. Every text, every email, every photograph. I knew what I had to do. The next day, I took a personal day from work. I needed to focus, to meticulously plan my counterattack. I went to a local print shop and ordered copies of everything. The pictures of Mark and his mistress, tangled in each other's arms in our living room. The text messages, filled with promises of love and declarations of lust. The emails from his parents, confessing their knowledge of the affair and offering their unwavering support. The text messages where they harassed me about the divorce, blaming me for destroying their son's life. And then the pièce de résistance, the text messages where they bullied my daughters about their half-brothers. In one particularly vile exchange, they called my daughters bastards, blaming them for their father's death because they were the ones who had told me about the affair, triggering the divorce. These messages were sent just 2 days after Mark died. I paid extra for high-quality printing, wanting the images and text to be crisp and clear, impossible to dismiss. Then I went home and spent hours crafting my masterpiece of revenge. I bought several plain binders, the kind you'd use for school reports. I wanted them to look innocuous, unassuming, like something you might find in the back of a church. I wanted them to blend in. I designed a cover that mimicked the church's hymn books, a simple, familiar design that wouldn't raise any red flags. But when you opened the binder, the first thing you saw was a full-page photo of Mark and his mistress, locked in a passionate embrace. Their faces were clearly visible, their identities undeniable. Underneath I wrote, "Mark and mistress names love story." I meticulously organized the evidence, each document carefully placed to tell a story. A story of betrayal, deceit, and manipulation. A story that would shatter their carefully constructed facade of piety and virtue. The next morning before the Sunday service, I drove to the church. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was unwavering. I parked in the back and walked towards the entrance, carrying the binders in a large tote bag. There was a small desk near the entrance, stacked with hymn books for those who had forgotten theirs. No one was watching it. I slipped the binders onto the shelf, nestled amongst the familiar green books. They blended in perfectly. Then I walked away, my heart pounding in my chest. The fallout was swift and brutal. The church's Facebook group exploded with outrage. The names Mark and his mistress were called were so vile that the pastor himself had to intervene, struggling to maintain some semblance of order. People were disgusted by Mark's infidelity, by his parents' blatant lies and their cruel treatment of my daughters. But the most satisfying part was the hypocrisy. The very people who had condemned me for divorcing Mark were now condemning him for his adultery. They were outraged that he had betrayed his marriage vows, that he had fathered children out of wedlock. I even received 2 apology letters in the mail. One from a woman who had been particularly vocal in her criticism of me. She admitted that she had been wrong, that she had judged me without knowing the full story. She also extended an invitation to rejoin the church, offering support during this difficult time. As for my ex-in-laws, they were ostracized, shamed. They stopped attending church, unable to face the judgment of their peers. A few days later, my ex-mother-in-law posted a tearful rant on her Facebook wall, lamenting how alienated she felt, how no one cared for the elderly anymore. She longed for her great son, who would have taken care of her and her husband. The irony was delicious. Mark had been living off my income for years. I was the breadwinner, the one who paid the bills. He had been squandering our money on his mistress, leaving us in a precarious financial situation. And then there was the will. Mark had left everything to his parents, not to his daughters. I had been aware of this, of course. It was another slap in the face, another testament to his selfishness and disregard for his own children. I had my own will made out that left everything to my daughters, not him. In the end, I didn't get any satisfaction from their suffering. Maybe I thought I would, but they were just sad, broken people. And maybe that was enough. Their church community was the only place they felt like they belonged. I took that away from them. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that my daughters and I are stronger than ever. We have weathered the storm, and we have emerged scarred, but not broken. We have learned the importance of family, of loyalty, and of standing up for what is right, even when it's difficult. And we know that sometimes, the most satisfying revenge is simply living well,